Ubisoft confirms 185 layoffs as it closes former DJ Hero studio and downsizes other studios. Specifically, they are cutting jobs in Europe as part of their broader restructuring plans that they have. As you can see here in this report from VGC, the move will see the company close Ubisoft Leamington, maybe, which is based in Leamington Spa, England. What a place to live. Wow. Seriously, is this a real place? Or is this like just to troll me? Leamington Spa. Jesus. That's beautiful. I'd work there. Golly, that's beautiful. Wowza canowza. Who knew? So that's being shut down. That beautiful studio and that beautiful place is being shut down. And they're making cuts at Ubisoft Düsseldorf, Ubisoft Stockholm, and Ubisoft Reflections. Leamington previously was known as Freestyle Games, the studio behind the DJ Hero series, before it was acquired by Ubisoft from Activision in 2017. It has worked mainly as a support studio in games such as Far Cry 5, Avatar, and Star Wars Outlaws. Yeah, I mean, if you're a support studio on a handful of games that don't do too well, Ubisoft said in a statement provided to VGC, quote, as part of our ongoing efforts to prioritize projects and reduce costs that ensure long-term stability at Ubisoft, we have announced targeted restructurings at Ubisoft Düsseldorf, Stockholm, and Reflections, and the permanent closure of Ubisoft Leamington. Unfortunately, this should impact 185 employees overall. We are deeply grateful for their contributions and committed to supporting them through this transformation. Yeah, I mean, layoffs are always awful because it's a reflection of typically mismanagement and problems that started on high, but the people on high aren't the ones that suffer for it. It's the people, in the actual positions doing the work that are punished for it and get laid off, even though it's like the executives that screwed up. They keep their jobs. They might not get as big a bonus or something, but they're still fully employed and they still are making millions either way. The Guillemot family currently owns 14% of Ubisoft shares, while Tencent owns 9.99%. This is also one thing to remember. I've heard some people get this wrong. Tencent is not currently allowed to acquire more shares of Ubisoft without the Guillemot family trust, basically allowing them to. And they own half of the Guillemot family trust that owns the Guillemot family shares. But they own like 49.99%. And so still they rely on the Guillemot family to give them the approval, which is why this whole thing is so bizarre, because Tencent is the only company seemingly interested in saving Ubisoft because they have more money than God. And yet Ubisoft executives, the Guillemot family specifically, doesn't seem to want to be saved because they want to stay in control and they don't want to leave. They don't want to have a new CEO come in. They want to stay in their positions of power. So Tencent wants to save them, but Ubisoft executives don't want to be saved. So they're looking for other things. So Tencent's in this weird spot where they're almost rooting for the for the company to destabilize and weaken to the point where the Guillemot family has no choice but to get booted out. And the Guillemot family, they also they want it to stabilize, but they don't want it to stabilize too much, because if it stabilizes too much and the stock goes back up, then they don't have their chance at retaining full control. Ideally for the Guillemot family, they get to buy out the company, take it private with Tencent as a partner, and they get to stay in their position of power. And then the company goes back up and is valued with $10 billion or whatever it should be valued today. But it's the most bizarre sort of standoff situation I can think of in corporate business right now. It's really, frankly, bizarre. A Reuters report published last month claimed that Ubisoft's shareholders were considering how to structure a possible buyout of the company without reducing the Guillemot family's control. Again, the Guillemot family doesn't want to give up anything. Tencent was claimed to be undecided whether to participate in the buyout and increase its stake in the company, reportedly because it has asked for a greater say on future board decisions. According to Reuters, discussions between the two are ongoing, as Tencent also wants to prevent any potential hostile takeover of Ubisoft by other investors. This is the thing that would be so fascinating. I don't know. I don't think Microsoft, well, actually now, under the new administration, they might be able to, but I don't know if Microsoft would be able to get an acquisition of Ubisoft approved by European regulators. I don't know if they could get that done, but let's say hypothetically they could. It's a small acquisition, all told. It's only like $1.3 billion roughly is what they would pay for Ubisoft. Even though the company should be worth like 14 billion according to their IP and how many employees they have and the other assets, properties, leases, accounts receivable, bookings, all of that. Like, they should be worth a lot more, but it's the management that's the problem. And so if Microsoft came in and was like, hey, we'll buy out every single share, we'll be generous, we'll give you $2 billion for it, even though right now it's trading at 1.3. In that case, they would have to sit up and look at that. But I think the Guillemot family and all of the other people would fight that pretty hard. And Microsoft could pursue a hostile takeover, which would just be basically to go in and buy up individual shares, as many as they could, and just say, no, suck it up. You're going to deal with it because I'm going to buy all these shares. And they just go to all of the smaller shareholders and buy up their shares until they have a majority stake. And then they vote to basically give themselves the company and go from there. That gets real messy. But funnily enough, that might be the only thing that pushes the Guillemot family out, is if they become that desperate that Tencent has to come in and bankroll the whole thing, because Tencent has the money to fight Microsoft on an acquisition like that. The Guillemot family does not, but Tencent's not allowed to acquire more shares until the Guillemot family gives them the go-ahead, which is a problem. So the whole thing is just insane. The whole thing is bizarre and crazy and stupid, but we'll see what happens. Again, I mean, there's going to be more layoffs this year as well. Even though this year is going to be massive for gaming, there's still a lot of projects, a lot of studios that are working on stuff that's not ever going to see the light of day, frankly. And I mean, even now we're seeing layoffs or we're seeing projects getting shut down from PlayStation, whether it's Blue Point or Sony Bend, or, you know, at Ubisoft, you're seeing that. You're going to see layoffs at Microsoft Studios because they own so many. It's just going to keep happening. But for Ubisoft specifically, it's going to be interesting to watch how this kind of develops, because there's a lot of gears turning behind the scenes.